Hello learners, welcome to our YouTube channel. Myself Simran from Team CloudyML, and today we will be looking at another SQL interview question asked by Amazon. So let's begin. This is the question which says, write an SQL query to report all customers who have never ordered anything and return the result table in any order. So we need to find the names of such customers that have never ordered anything. So let's see what the input table looks like. This is a sample input wherein you have two tables. First is the customers table and the second is the orders table. In the customers table, you have two columns. First is the ID of the customer and then the name of the customer. And second is the orders table. First is the ID of the order and the customer ID who has ordered with this ID. So we need to extract those customers who have never ordered anything, but they are the customer of the service but have not ordered anything yet. So our sample output in this case will be Henry and Max. How Henry and Max? Let's see. As you can observe over here, the customer ID in the orders table are 3 and 1. And 3 and 1 correspond to the customers Joe and Sam, which means Joe and Sam have ordered something at least once. But Henry and Max, their customers' ID, which are 2 and 4, are not present in this orders table, which means they have not ordered anything yet from this service. So that is why we get the output as Henry and Max. Okay, so let's see how this question is coded using SQL. For solving this question, we are using the MySQL workbench. You can use any stable version in your system. Okay, so let's begin. We are going to use three solutions to this question, and I'll explain those three solutions to you. First, let's start by creating a database using the create database statement, data4, and use this data4. Select these queries and run them. Okay, check whether your queries have succeeded or not. Yes, they have succeeded. Now next we need to create both the tables, the orders and the customer table. So this is the code for creating the table using the create and insert statements. Okay, so we have inserted ID and the name columns and 4 records as we have been given in the sample input. Run these. And yes, our table has been created with the ID and name column. This is the customers table. Similarly, you need to create the orders table, which has the columns ID and customer ID. Here in this orders table, the ID is the order ID and not the customer ID. So don't get confused. There are two columns. First is the ID, which is the orders ID. And the second is the customer ID, that which customer has placed the order. So run this and you can see there are two columns, 2 rows and 2 columns. Okay, so now we have been done with creating the tables. So now let's move on with the first solution to this problem. I will first write the query and then explain it to you. First, select customer. Our table name is customers dot name as customers. As is used to give a name to the column that we are extracting. Because in our sample output, the column name was customers. So that is why we use the as keyword to give the name to the extracted column. Select customers.name as customers from the table name, which is customers, and C is the alias name given to this table customers. Okay, and next, where customer.id not in customer.id not in select customer underscore id from orders. So what does this mean is this inner query will extract all the customer IDs from orders, which means it will simply extract 3 and 1. And after that, this outer query will check whether our customer.id, which means the column customer ID from the customers table, is present in this inner query or not. First, we'll run the query and then understand what exactly does it mean. Where customers.id, not in select customer underscore ID from orders. So now run this query and you will get the output, which was Henry and Max. So yes, our output is correct. What we have done in this query is that first we select the customers.names from the customer table, but for only those customers who are also present in the orders table. It will eliminate those customers who are present in the orders table and only extract those customer IDs who are not present in the orders table. Okay. So now let's move ahead with the second solution to this problem. So now in this approach, we are going to use the join tables concept in which we join two tables based on some similar columns. So let's first see the queries. We need to select the name from customers table. Select name as the column name that we are using, customers. From the customers table, give the alias as C. Okay. Left join orders, which is our second table, and the alias given is O. On. In the on keyword, we will be specifying the common columns. In our case, the common columns are the ID, the customer ID, and the customer ID from the orders table. So first, C.id. C is the alias name given to customers table. So this C.id is the ID column of customer table, and O.customer ID. O is the alias name given to orders table, and this O.customer ID is the customer ID from orders table. Where O.customer underscore ID is null. So first, let's run this query and see the output first. So yes, we get the correct output, which is Henry and Max. So what does this query do is, first it will join both the tables based on left join. What left join does is, it will extract all the rows from the customers table and only the common rows from orders table. As we know that in our case, we have these two tables, customers and orders. So if in our case, customers is the left table, orders is the right table. So it will extract all the rows from this customers table because it is the left table. And it will extract only the common rows from this orders table. The common rows are nothing but 3 and 1 because 3 and 1 are also present. ID 3 and 1 are also present in customers table. So that is why it will extract both the rows because both the IDs are present in this ID column. Okay. And then after joining, it will only consider the customer IDs from orders table that are null from this left join table. We'll just break down these queries. First, let's understand what is extracted in the left join table. Okay. Just copy this. From this, we will understand that what exactly comes when we perform a left join. Let's select star so that we can see all the columns. Okay, and all the other things will be same. The join will take place on these two columns, which are the ID columns. Let's run this to see. So this is the table that we get when we left join both the tables. As you can see, all the 4 columns are present here. This ID and name, this part, these two columns are present from the customers table. And this ID and customer ID are present from the orders table. So from this, you can clearly see that both the tables have been joined. And you can see that ID and customer ID have the last 2 values as null. Why? Because there are no values present over there. That is why they show the values as null. Okay. Then from this only you can understand that why a where condition is used with is null, where o dot customer id is null. So o dot customer id is this fourth last wala column. Okay, so you can see that the last two values are null. So it will extract the names for which this o dot customer id is null. So the names are Henry and Max. As you can see, in corresponding to Henry and Max, both the customer ID values are null. This is the reason why it will extract the names Henry and Max. What it will do is select the name from customers, a left join orders table, and it will select only those names for which the corresponding customer ID values are null. Okay. So now let's move ahead with the third solution. The third solution, we are going to use the concept of not exists. So let's first write the query, select name as customers, which is the column name that we are specifying, from customers C. C is the alias name for the customers table. Now, where not exists, what this query will do is check whether the extracted columns are present in a query or not, and if it does not exist, then and only then it will extract these names. So what is our inner query? Select star from, let's take it down so that you can properly see it, from orders, where from orders O, let's keep it orders O, where O dot customer underscore ID equals C dot ID. C is our customers table and O is our orders table. So it will check the customer ID is similar to the ID in the customers table or not. First, let's run the query and check the output. Yes, it is giving the correct output, which is Henry and Max. Let's understand what exactly it has done. So first, it attempts to select the name as customers from the customers table where not exist, which means that the records that have been extracted by this specific query should not exist in the records selected by this inner query. Okay, it will check whether these records are not present in these. And if it is not present, then only it will show us these records. If they are present, then it will not show us that records. Let's see what this inner query results into so that we can properly understand what it has done. Just run this, check the semicolon and run it. Just a second. Oh, okay. Here we need to also add the customers table because we have used for the common columns. Select it and now run it. So as you see, we get the records for which this customer underscore ID from orders table and the ID of the customer from the customers table, both are equal. See, 1 and 1 are equal, 3 and 3 are equal. That is why these records have been extracted. The ID 2 from the customers table and the ID 4 from the customers table are not present in this orders table, which means they are not equal. That is why they have not been extracted. But the customer ID 1 from customers table and the customer ID 1 from orders table, they are equal. That is why they have been extracted. Similar is with the third ID, customer ID 3, and here also customer ID 3 are equal. That is why they have been extracted. Okay, so we want the result to be ID 2 and 4, which is Henry and Max. That is why we have used where not exists. If we run this query, it will simply extract all the columns, all the records. See, I'll show you. It has extracted all the records, Joe, Henry, Sam, Max. But we want only those records that are not present in the orders table. So that is why we have used the condition where not exists. So it will filter out those records that don't exist in this. And the records that don't exist in the inner query are Henry and Max. That is why Henry and Max are displayed. Joe and Sam are not displayed because they exist. They exist into this. And we need the records that do not exist. So that is why Henry and Max are displayed. Okay, so I hope you've understood all the three solutions. You can practice and code by yourself. You can also comment down below if you have any other solution which is more better than this solutions that have been provided. So if you like the video, please share it with your friends, those who need it, those who feel it helpful, and also subscribe our channel for more such content. Thank you.